So let's dive into this conversation about retail here. So how this is going to work is I'm going to go over some of the questions that I have for Michelle, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A for you guys. So y'all have any questions, hold those, and you'll be able to ask her no problem, and we'll pass the mic around, okay? So with that.
And is it okay if I pivot on some of your questions?
Yeah, okay. You do it. Pivot's our favorite
y'all cool
word
with
here.
Pivots? All right.
We've all been scarred by them enough, so we're like, yes, sure, that's fine. Let that happen. And just let me know if you want to switch over to your deck. Okay. So, anyways, with that, what do national retail buyers look for in new brands or products when people are looking to add some new stuff to their store?
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. Who in here has ever had an idea for a product that they've wanted to launch in retail? Like you're shopping and you're like, okay, all right, I guess I'm a little bit. Who already has a product that has sold in retail stores? Yes, yeah.
You? Yeah.
What? We have to unpack this, not now.
Oh, we closed it down, so it's not a thing anymore.
Okay,
but
you've done it.
Yep.
Okay. So had you asked me this question a few years ago, I would have answered it differently than now. The first thing buyers are looking for is a social media following. They're looking for communities. They're looking for, the packaging can be beautiful, but what the buyer wants to know is how are you going to use the network you already have to move the product off the shelf. So for example, Walmart has 148,000 SKUs in their store. They're like, there's no way a shopper's going to go into Walmart and literally look at 148,000 SKUs and be like, oh, I need this. It's like, how are you driving traffic to stores? So they're looking for what you've built outside of just the product to drive traffic. Yeah. So community, social media.
Nice. Yeah. And excuse me for not setting up this conversation as well as I could have. What do you do, Michelle?
Such a loaded question.
Yeah.
So I help brands get products into retail stores. So maybe we could switch over to the slide and I can show them. So y'all, I started in this industry 10 years ago. I didn't even know what a SKU was, which, some people may not know what that is either, but it's how they classify like a product. Every product that exists has a SKU. I had no clue what that even was. Sorry,
Eric's weird and has the different scroll thing, so it takes me a second. Anyway. There you go. Nope, it's not.
See which way I'm supposed to go with this. Okay. So here's a little thing about entrepreneurship and taking risks. And I'm like way pivoting off your question right now.
I said, what do you do? You're still on point. You're fine.
Okay. So in my past life, I was a VP of marketing before I got into this world. I applied for a job at Poopery for a director of marketing role. The recruiter literally said, we are not hiring for a director of marketing, but the founder is looking for an executive assistant. The founder is Susie. You can see her, Susie Batiz, the founder of Poopery, who was literally right next to Kylie Jenner on the America's self-richest made women list. And I was like, okay, so like I've had executive assistants, I've never been one. But I'm gonna learn something from this lady. So I was like, I don't care if I'm getting coffee orders, sweeping her floors. I'm saying yes if I get to like work with this lady. So I took the job as an executive assistant for her. She was like a wild thing, as you can imagine. And I sucked as an executive assistant. I like the worst. So instead of firing me, she put me in her sales department. And that's where I had to learn from scratch. I knew nothing about the retail world. And overnight, I was responsible for $10 million of business, which was expected on me, new person who has no idea what she's doing, to grow by $5 million that year. That was their goal. Assumed responsibility for 120 outside sales reps, 28 trade shows with no trade show manager, and I didn't know what the heck a SKU was. So, to give everybody here hope, if you're starting at ground zero, you're probably better than where I even was 10 years ago. And she was actually the one that gave me my first client and said, you need to start a business doing this, because I figured out very quickly how to cut through the noise, because this woman provided zero training whatsoever. because she was busy building her empire. So hopefully some of the stuff that I share with y'all tonight is just some of that cut through the noise stuff that I learned the hard way. Yeah.
I think that's a great intro. So, what? Oh, yeah.
And this, y'all, is a little piece of history. This is Susie Batiste. That was the first bottle of Poopery. Do y'all know Poopery? Okay. That was the very first bottle she ever made. This is actually the table from her very first trade show she ever did. Yeah.
So you can come up and touch it afterwards and be like, I'm touching
It's
retail
got good
history. Yes. The glow. Right. So, do we want to pivot more, or shall I ask you my next question? Okay, great. So, what would you say separates the products that get picked from the ones that don't? So, we already know that now what kind of big box stores are looking for is that social media following, or like, how are you going to get more people into the store? So, let's say that it's like, great, I have a following, I can prove this, but your stuff still might not get picked. So, what's kind of like a separator outside of that community aspect? Why someone may or may not get picked, or why a SKU may or may not get picked?
So, buyers are overwhelmed right now, and I'm talking corporate buyers. So, I am going to pivot. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, I'm gonna pivot from this. With your product idea, you have to identify like what channels does your product actually belong in, and what was the original question?
What separates products basically from being chose or not chose?
Perfect. So you have to identify first and foremost where your product actually should live in store. So a lot of people have ideas for products. They're like, I've got the packaging, it looks good, I've got the idea, but and they're like, and I want this product in Target. Well, let's say you have an idea for does someone want to throw out a random product idea they've had?
Automatic bike pump.
Baby care? What was that one?
Automatic bike pump.
Automatic lake pump?
No, bike pump that as you're biking, if you get a flat, don't worry, it will continue to autofill your tire as you're biking, where you don't have to stop.
That was really good.
It was a startup games thing. That was Kyle's team.
That was really good. Okay, so I'm going to go with baby care, but that's only because I have sold baby care into almost every major retailer in all different
Baby care
categories.
right up here.
Yep, we've got some Maybe James baby care. They're local here to Reading. Bella Tuno, I love them. It's a female-founded brand. They're B Corp, and for every product that they sell, they give a meal to hungry children in the U.S. So, anyways, you have to identify baby care. What white space are you filling in that retailer? So you first need to identify what retailers actually make sense for you to go into. And I think I actually have a slide on this. Oh yeah, that was me having no idea what I was doing at my first trade show, stacking toilet paper. All right, retailer research. So identify your channels. So if it's baby product, what channels do you think that product could actually live? And then I say physically go into the store. I'm gonna move this and walk the aisle to see how is everything priced. Like, so you have your product. A buyer's not going to flip one product in for a product that does and accomplishes the exact same thing. So you have to be filling some sort of white space. Maybe James, for example, they fill a white space in the baby category because A, it's more competitively priced than what's out there. And this applies to anything. I'm just speaking to baby care right now. But B, mamas love that they can have baby products that are beautiful on their bathroom counters, that doesn't have elephants and Elmos and rainbows and take away from their aesthetic, and it keeps a modern vibe. So that, to a buyer, that fills a white space that a lot of categories don't have. So it's what white space are you filling, and then are you priced competitively to fit in that space? Because if your shampoo is, because of where you got it manufactured, is going to be $49.99, well, that's never going to sell. So you have to make sure you're competitively priced, and knowing your pricing is really important.
Oh, definitely. So what would you say has changed the most, or maybe some standout changes in retail and like essentially the buyers or retail taking in new products into their stores over the last 5 years? Because a lot globally has happened in 5 years. So how would you say the retail space has changed? Or you can kind of take a spin on that if you have a good spin to go with.
That's a really good question. So they change constantly, especially here recently. One thing is the larger the retailer, the longer their review cycles are. For example, there's 3 different tiers of retail, and I will hit your question. There's the independence retail, which there's tens of thousands of, think your Hallmarks, think your, what are all the cute little shops here in downtown Reading, all your independent stores, Ace Hardwares, that covers a huge gamut of locations. Then you have mid-tier, which would be like your department stores, your Nordstrom's, your Macy's, probably Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and then you have what I call mass. And your mass, and it's kind of like a funnel, is your Costco's, your Walmart's, your Target's, your huge retailers. The larger the retailer, I'll tell you right now, I'm doing meetings with Walmart for summer 2026. So if you're pitching a large retailer, you're going to pitch, and they may not place that product for over a year. But for the manufacturer, for y'all that have the product idea, that's great for you because they'll give you a business award, and then you have time to figure out how the heck am I going to come up with the funds to actually produce, thousands and thousands of units and get you need to have proper logistics in place. I know that's a separate question, but
don't worry, we'll get there.
Well, they would assume that you're not going to pitch unless you have the capacity to scale. So
that's an assumption on their part then.
It's an assumption. And I actually have a little slide here. So yeah, your 3 main channels, your independent, your mid-tier, and your mass. And your independents are where I recommend brands that are just starting to start because they pay with credit card and it helps with cash flow. Buyers now, what they're looking for, they want to know you have strong sales somewhere. You only need one success story. The investment you have to make to pull off that epic success story is up to you. Like Sarah Blakely from Spanx, who, when she finally, no buyer would even take a meeting with her, she just sold her business for $1 billion to BlackRock. She put in a $5,000 investment while she was selling fax machines. She took a $5,000 investment to start making these little pantyhose with the legs cut out of them, and no one even wanted to manufacture her product. Anyway, she finally got a meeting with Nordstrom's, refused to take no for an answer. The buyer was like, sure, we'll give you 5 stores. So she paid some of her friends and family to come and create a buzz at her table for her product to prove that this is hot and this product is going viral. And she just sold it for $1 billion. So you will have to make obviously some investments up front, but what's changed is buyers want, you have more heavy lifting on your part to drive sales. You can't just get on the shelf and expect the product to sell.
Is that kind of also alluding to that first question of what can get you in the door in the first place? And it's like, oh, well, if you have a large social media following, would you say that was the case 5 years ago, that mattered?
Not as much.
Yeah.
So beginning founders document, I think Gary Vee says this, and I may say it wrong, document, don't promote. So your story as a founder, people are so interested in watching founder stories, like their struggles and what they're going through. Like the founder of Poppy that just sold to Pepsi for $1.2 billion. Yeah. She started that business 6 years ago because
it was only 6?
6 or 7 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. Because she had stomach issues, so she created a probiotic soda at her kitchen table while she was pregnant with their first child. And you want to know where they started? Selling at farmers market. You want to know what her product was called before they went on Shark Tank? It was called Mother, something weird. And Anyways, they rebranded, but she started at her kitchen table, and you know why she started that? Because she got pregnant, and she was working in the oil and gas industry, flying all over. And she's like, I want to create a product so I can stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom. And I don't think she realized how much was going to go into that.
I think that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did. And then I think now they have, 3 or 4 kids and a business that sold for $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
All because she created a white space in the soda category. So buyers want white space, but she documented everything. Her sitting at the table, like making this stuff with apple cider vinegar. She documented the whole process. Her entire journey was on TikTok, and she just wasn't scared to look stupid. And it's like, if you're not embarrassed by your first product or first prototype, you're not moving quick enough. And that's what she did. And she documented the failures, the successes, and it worked because people connect with authenticity, and that's in realness. And business is freaking hard. So.
So what would you say is like the difference between working with, say, a broker, a representative, or going direct to Target, like, hello, I have a thing, you should buy it? Like, can we talk about those 3 different approaches to getting into retail?
Yeah, so if you're starting with the independent channel, which is what I recommend because it opens up cash flow, and you can be scrappy in that channel, and you can make mistakes that won't put you out of business. Unlike making a mistake at Walmart, and they will charge you back for doing one thing wrong, and will put, it's very costly. What was your original question?
So like, what's the difference between like working with a broker, a representative, or going direct?
Yeah, so there's an industry, if you want to break into the independent channel, that I would recommend you write down, and it's called the Gift and Home Association. Gift and Home. So they have 3 main trade shows every year: the Dallas Market Center, Vegas Market Center, and Atlanta Market Center. You can set up a tent booth at those shows. Trade shows is a great way to meet buyers, but there's also permanent showrooms that you can get placement in, and then you have sales reps that work on commission only, selling your products, boots on the ground across the country. You pay them 15% on everything that they sell by the 15th of the month after you are paid, so it keeps constant cash flow in. But you have boots on the ground across the country. If you get showroom placement. Until then, you can set up a temp booth, build up a base, and build up that demand so one of these showrooms actually wants to represent your products. They're called rep groups / showrooms, but it just is an organization that provides representation at these markets, but then they also come with a sales force that's commission only.
And then a cool thing too about being in California is through GoBiz, which is like the California's like business branch essentially. What they have is they have different essentially payback programs that if you're traveling out of state, so that could even apply to those 3 trade shows you were talking about, you can get upwards of like a $5,000 essentially reimbursement check cut to you and like paid back to you in your business. I don't know all of the exacts with it, but they will also sometimes go and purchase a like state of California like tent or area like in a prominent spot of that trade show, and then you're able to go in under the state of California name, and then it's again highly discounted rates, but that's through GoBiz, and it's a really cool thing. Yeah, you can actually like get paid back for a chunk of those outer expenses that you have to put out. So anyways, that's neat. But so with reps and brokers, is there any type of difference there?
So brokers typically sell more into the mass retail. So you're going to have brokers that are going to hit more of your mid-tier to mass. Mid-tier probably being department, your militaries, like AFIS, the Air Force Army Exchange. They have 4,900 locations on base. So they're stocking and people are shopping. And so there's all these little hidden gems that fall under mid-tier.
So is that just like a grocery store or like a retail store
What branch of the military were you in? Navy. So you guys had NextCom, I think they called it. Yeah. Yeah. We put products in Navy Exchange, Coast Guard Exchange, Air Force Exchange. Yeah, all of it. But so mid-tier. So your brokers typically work mid-tier and then your mass. Highly recommend working with a broker. I'm a broker, but depending on the category and the product, I may not have a good relationship in, say, the sporting goods department. And I want to sell to Target because I'm working with a brand that wants in Target. So I'll hunt down, literally Google, until I find companies that have brokers that sell into the mass retail and the categories that I'm looking for. Brokers typically work on a 5% commission, whereas your sales reps that are selling into the independent stores work on 15%. But
That's like industry standards.
industry standard.
Nice.
Yep.
Cool. So with that, when let's say you're in that meeting room and the buyers are like, okay, well, show me some traction. Like I know you said like, you only really need one success story. What does a success story look like? I know it can be different for different businesses, but it's like, oh, like I sold out of 5,000 products in a month, or like, what does traction look like to them? Could you give us some examples?
Yeah, if you're just starting out, which just recently this year, within the last 12 months, I picked up 2 brands that had 0 traction, brand new to wholesale, and which is not normally something that I like to do because I like working with brands that I have a success story and I can just throw that in front of my buyers and they're like, yeah, like we'll take it. And what they did have though was a large email list and a large D2C business and a large Amazon business.
Amazon.
Oh yeah, Amazon, sorry. And so to me, that was enough to go, there's something here. It was just brand new. You know what I mean? But epic packaging, like I know it was gonna sell, but for me, I almost operate as a buyer, like with the brands that I work with, because I'm evaluating, and some of my buyers, especially in the beauty category, I have great relationships. And so they literally will trust me. So they know if I'm bringing them something we've kind of already vetted. But yeah.
Do you have any fun success stories that you were just like, I am so stoked to tell this person's story or this brand story?
Well, I will say maybe there's tons, but it takes a village. Like there's a huge team, because I've worked on the corporate world of it as well. But maybe James, it was really cool. They were just D2C. They're local here to Reading. They were just D2C for their last year. Came to me
And I say just real quick, that's direct to consumer, where they were just like selling through, I believe, their website and Amazon.
Yeah. And started with them in February and of this year. What month are we in? April,
I think.
Yeah, so by the end of this month, they'll have about 80, I think it's 86 to be exact, sales reps across the country. Showroom placement in 3 of those largest shows in the gift and home. We have a meeting with Nordstrom's next week, meeting with Macy's, Pop Shelf, and it's literally been just a few months but they filled a white space and something that was different. So that's like a recent exciting.
Wins. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, they have awesome products too, so that's a great thing. So what role does like packaging play? Like, how concerned do I need to be about my packaging, or how long should I spend on this to be like, oh my gosh, I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to perfect, is it this shade of purple or that shade of purple?
Yeah.
You know, like, how much does that matter?
Can I stand up for this part?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
So, I wanted to bring some of the products because you guys can kind of see, these are just some of the brands that I've either worked with or are working with. A consumer, so depending what product that you're wanting to launch, go walk the stores, like physically walk the stores, get around the stool, and go look at the set that your product would live in. And it's like, if you're going to develop your packaging from scratch, how is your packaging going to stand out from what's already in that set, and build to fill that white space if you're building from scratch. There are some very, very important things with packaging. A consumer, think about y'all. You have like 3 seconds to make an impression on somebody that's walking by a shelf. And that's why displays, which I'll show you all a slide in a second, merchandisers are very valuable. Buyers love them, easy to merchandise, easy to go in and out. But some things that are really important to have on all of your packaging is a UPC barcode made through GS1. And you can just Google GS1. It's literally the only place that you can go to get a barcode made. But your product, that is one of the most important things for new brands to make sure that you have.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So what's the like actual cost of saying yes to a big retailer? Obviously, it's like
Sleepless nights, lots of crying. I'm just kidding.
perfect. So just have your tissues ready and you'll be fine.
A good support system.
Yes. Oh man, if only there was a community to do that. Shoot.
Yeah. Y'all are in the best place for that.
So there's the obvious cost of, oh my gosh, I now have to get 100,000 units to, you know, the Walmart distribution center at this date. What else more than that? Because like obviously that's not the only cost to you, but like what else is there to consider by saying yes to a deal?
They're gonna expect like 360 support. So the reason I also like starting with independents is because they don't have as many pack out requirements for how they need to receive the product. Whereas when you get into mid-tier to mass, it comes with a manual that's about this thick that tells you exactly how they want their pallets stacked, exactly how they want everything stickered. You may have to order special stickers. So then you need to be in a proper third-party logistics, a 3PL, that can actually receive and pack out to ship and deliver those orders properly. So that's an expense if you want to play on the mass scale, which is why I recommend starting with the independents, because it's a lot easier to call Susie's Boutique and say, I am so sorry that I forgot to add this to the order. I will reship that tomorrow for you and send you tracking, versus Walmart's chargeback department, who's like, flag, and you can't call anyone to fix it, and then they send you, they deduct a large amount off what you're supposed to receive. So,
Yeah, those 3PLs are so helpful. So Eric and I, we used to have a company called Chips and Salsa where we
I was so curious what that was. I kept
it was a
seeing
card and board game.
on the check, and I'm like, what the heck is Chips?
What
I'm
is
Googling Chips and Salsa Reddit. Like, what is this?
It was a sick website when it was alive, I'll say that much. But we produced board games and card games. So there was one card game in particular that during the fun COVID, everything stuck in the bay on a freighter time, our stuff got stuck for about 4.5 months in San Francisco. We were working with a 3PL, and thank God we were, because it shows up to Amazon literally a week after the Amazon barcode like discontinued. They're like, sorry, it's been 90 days. I don't know what that is. And you're like, just scan the dumb barcode and take it. They're like, we can't do that. I was like, oh my gosh. So what would have happened is if obviously we weren't down there to do anything with it, nor would we know what to do with it. It would have gotten shipped back to China, repackaged to literally put one dumb barcode on it, to then be shipped back, wait another 4 months, have it expire, and be stuck in a loop. But our 3PL we were using, so that third-party logistics company, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. We have a place like 2 miles down the road. We'll ship it down there. They'll repackage it, then redrop it off at Amazon, and it'll be fine. And it all worked out. But that, like, Eric and I, we did have a few of those sleepless nights that you mentioned, because we're like, what are our babies like stuck in the like harbor, and we can't do anything about it. Now it's being rejected. What on earth? Yeah. So they are very helpful. So big fan of them. Yeah.
But that's an investment.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It most definitely is. And that cut into our margins, but for us it was worth it, especially because we were so new that we're like, we don't know what we don't know. And there was a lot of things we didn't know, especially about that manufacturing and shipping. So, yes. So let's see here. We've got maybe one or two more questions, and we'll turn it over to these guys here. Any particular materials that I would need to have ready before I go to a buyer's meeting or have a meeting with a buyer?
Yeah, I'm going to show you all really quick. So you need to have a line sheet or what's called a pitch deck. And essentially, it needs to be really simple, concise, retail pricing only. Wholesale cost is typically 50%. Buyers typically want 50% margins, meaning whatever the retail is, cut that in half. that's what the buyer is going to pay for it. Mid-tier sometimes needs 60%. In that deck, only put your retail pricing, don't put your wholesale pricing, because if that retailer has a lot of pack-out requirements, you have to order special tickets, you want to build in a higher price that you're going to charge them. Certain channels, like the drug channel, CVS, Walgreens, your Walmarts, they only need 30 to 35% margins, meaning you get to keep X amount more in-house, whereas a Nordstrom's might want 60% margins. So your pitch deck, it needs to have a cover page, benefits and differentiators, what makes you different, your assortment of products, displays if you have them, any customer reviews, press, an about us and our about you page. Short, sweet, and to the point. And I think.
And is that like,
Yeah.
oh,
I'll leave that up.
we got phones out. So is that like, obviously, y'all know that like pitching is my favorite word. And is that like a business pitch? That you come in and you're like, I'm ready to go. I got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And then you just wheel and deal and tell them your stuff.
So you first and foremost have to make contact with a buyer. So you have to figure out how to find their emails or do a trade show. I do have a way you can find people's buyer's contact and just go to hunter.io, take a screenshot of that. Literally, you can type in any web address that you want in the domain search, and then you go to LinkedIn, you find their names under that company. I'm using Nordstrom as an example. And then literally you have buyer's contact information. Yep.
I have used Hunter before, and it has been excellent.
Yeah.
And has actually been a very good email hunter, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like where I've gotten very few kickbacks and they've
Yeah.
worked. So.
Yeah. So as long as you know what their corporate email address is formatted as, I use LinkedIn to find their names. And then in the email, it's not a huge, don't use AI. I'm sorry, but make
No offense.
Make it personal. Like buyers have systems that will reject CRMs. Make it personal. Hey, Sally, I thought this product would be a great fit for Nordstrom's. If you have a success story, we have strong sell-through at here, or we're doing X amount of units, online, just launching a wholesale. Would you be the appropriate buyer to send samples to? Short, sweet, to the point. Why you think you'd be a fit? I literally think I have an example of what that email looks like. If you want to take a picture of it. These are some subject lines that work. Yeah, literally. Hi, Sandy. I wasn't sure if you're the appropriate buyer for wellness, but thought this would be a natural fit for Selfridges. That's a department store in London or in Europe. We have strong sell-through at Neiman's, Target, Wegmans, and can offer 50% margins. Would you be the appropriate buyer to send samples to? Thank you, and I attached the pitch deck. So, email basics to the point, market success. You can leave margins out of it if you don't know what their margin requirements are. The whole goal is to get them to say yes to samples. And you better make sure when those samples arrive, they are wrapped like baby Jesus and looking beautiful, because that buyer is judging everything from the second she opens the box to how the box feels in her hand to how it looks, and she's imagining it on her shelf. So that piece is the most important part. Yeah.
What about just sending it straight to their message on LinkedIn? Would you say it's better to send an email than just message them on LinkedIn?
I will tell you, I have probably 5,000 messages sitting in my LinkedIn inbox that may not ever receive a response. So you can, I'm sure, you can do both. I get the best success with emails. Aren't people inundated? What's the word? Inundated? Yeah. Inundated with LinkedIn getting sold. Everyone's so tired of being sold. Yeah.
Not the biggest LinkedIn fan myself.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a necessary evil type of thing. That's like, I guess I have to update this. I'll go like that engagement, whatever. So
I will say, when you have a business, using LinkedIn to promote, so smart. Never stop. Document everything, post everything. But as far as outreach, email's usually the most non-invasive.
The way I want to do it is DoorDash them something and then put a little note on it and be like, call me, here you go, and drop off flowers. So
So at Poopery, after our meetings with buyers, we would send them literally a toilet vase with flowers in it as a thank you post meeting.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Probably wouldn't work for all brands, but that brand,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What do they do up there?
I'm pretty sure it's musical practice. So this is a sampling of whatever they're working on currently.
Clogging?
Yeah, right.
Irish dancing?
Maybe it's like Sound of Music. Do they clog in
Okay.
that? I don't know. It seems right. So I'll ask one more question here, and then, like I said, we'll turn it over. So well, I mean, actually, no, you already answered that one. Okay, let me find another question here. I was going to say, what should we focus on with pitching if you were going to pitch? Well, here. If you've already answered it, great. I'll go with something else. But if there was anything specific to like really focus on when pitching, say Walmart or Target, like within the next year, what would you say that is? Is that mainly just kind of like what you already said here, with like including those different aspects of the pitch deck, and then just have that idea that it's like, hey, this isn't going to be for any time like soon, and know that that's going to be multiple quarters out? Or would you add anything to that statement?
Yeah, I wouldn't pitch until A, you're ready to really like follow through, and B, you've already thought through the entire process. So you know your numbers, meaning you know who's manufacturing your product. You know exactly how much this piece costs, how much this piece costs, this package costs. When you open, I kind of ripped that. If this is sourced from a different place than this, how much does every single piece cost? How much does it cost to actually fill it? What does the liquid cost inside of it? How much does it take to get it from A to B to make all that happen, to then get it into this box, to then get it to a 3PL? Like, you have to know your numbers, because if you pitch without knowing how much your components cost and what your true, they call it COGS, cost of goods, to then ship it out, you can pitch something and then you're literally gonna be paying the retailers to like be in business, and that makes no one's in business to like just constantly lose money. So I don't recommend bringing anything to a buyer until, and that's one reason that people work with brokers, and they are literally just Google. Like, if you want a Walmart broker, and they're all in Bentonville, Arkansas. I even outsource Walmart brokers. And start there, get feedback. They'll help make sure that you're ready before you pitch. Because if you get in front of a buyer and you get a meeting, you don't ever want to waste their time. And I've been doing this for 10 years. I still only get 20 minutes, sometimes a year, with my corporate buyers.
Sometimes a year? What do you mean?
20 minutes a year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Nathan. Yeah. That's pretty wild. So, yeah.
Have it buttoned up. Your packaging.
Tightly.
Very,
Yeah.
yes.
Amazing. Well, I have learned a ton. Thank you for that.
welcome.
So now we're throwing you over to these guys here. What questions? Oh, I already see a hand. Okay, Kyle, what you got for Michelle?
So I went to a conference a couple years ago about selling in a big box, and this was a couple years ago, so I'm curious how the numbers have changed. There they were talking about how your margin should be about 5x your COGS. Is that still for a physical product that's not food-based? What kind of margins should you expect once you know your COGS to be able to enter the retail big box market space?
I recommend hiring a really good consumer packaged goods accountant who literally, they have templates where they can help build that out for you. It's where a lot of founders lose a lot of money in not doing that from the beginning. So that's my recommendation. 20%, they call it OI, operating income, is typically standard. So like when I was at Poopery, every time I wanted to pitch a retailer that had, all these requirements, I'd literally have to go to the accountant, and we'd go through what are the ticketing requirements, shipping requirements, how many distribution centers do we have to ship to. We put in all the numbers, and as long as it hit 20%, that was good. That was their standard. Some company standards are 25. So finding a good CPG accountant, consumer packaged good accountant.
Nice. John, do you have that look? Okay.
For your what you call mass stores, namely the Costco's, the Macy's, the Targets. What would the difference be between a physical product and, because so many of them are carrying gift cards, and a lot of service-based businesses can be put on a gift card.
Yeah.
What does that look like, getting a gift card in?
So I have never done that or worked in that space, so I honestly don't think I'm the best person to answer that. I do know at Costco, I thought it was really interesting, like seeing those pallets with those little gift card things on them. So I know there's a way to do it, but I've only ever sold and focused on like tangible products. So unfortunately, I'm not the best person to answer that question.
Well, maybe another part of your business.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, like I said, service-based businesses,
Yeah.
Especially with these big box stores, they could go national very easily. It's not a physical product with a whole lot of outlay of cost, to create the product and the packaging. Well, some packaging, but I mean.
Yeah, I almost feel like that's a whole different segment in the stores, because how does a buyer make margin off of something that someone just pays? You know what I mean? So I feel like, I don't know anything about how that business model works within the store, but it's got to be completely different than a standard product, because people literally come in and pay the full amount for the card. So I don't even know how the stores make margins off that.
And I think most of the gift cards, you preload them with whatever amount, you as a consumer want. But for a service-based business, if there is a set price for the service, and of course you can probably preload it for any amount of money, but if it's preloaded for the set amount that the business offers it for, we have to factor in enough of a discount for the consumer to want it. Obviously, it cost for the big box store, and still enough money for the owner
Yeah.
to make a profit.
Definitely something I should probably look into, because it's probably a lot of money there.
I do have a question. Sometimes we find pearls in the gutter. Can you speak on some of your most unexpected successes?
So, interesting question. I'm really good at vetting brands, and I really like to work with brands that you just know are going to be good. But I will tell you, I worked a trade show about 5 years ago, and it was this father and son. They had the booth right next to us, and it was their first show they had ever done. They were from Alabama, just like these good old boys. And they're like, we don't really know what we're doing, but we think this is going to really work out. They created, and I saw it today in Holiday, and so I had to buy it. They created an all-natural bug spray. And I tell you, after 5 years, I had completely forgotten that they existed, but they created an all-natural bug spray, and they were asking me all these questions during the trade show, and they're like, do you think we're gonna make it? What do we need to know? And I'm giving them whatever, these random tips, and never really thought about it again. But they filled a white space with all-natural bug spray, and now I'm they're literally in Holiday Market here. So I had nothing to do with that, but I bought the product today to support their sell-through.
Something you had to do with it, with the gold you gave them,
Maybe, but relentlessness. The thing is, people always, they see these products in stores, and it's they respect the results, like Poppy, but they don't have they don't want to do the routine that it takes to actually get the results. And the routine is the amount of emails you have to send to these buyers, the amount of follow-up. It's all the stuff behind the scenes that nobody sees that actually makes it a success, actually gets you on the shelf. It's, hundreds of emails. I mean, it's just with anything. It's grunt work. It's not pretty. It's not glamorous. It looks glamorous when you walk in. You're and the product's here at Nordstrom's, and you you look like you've just gone to battle to make that happen. Because it is. I mean, business is not. You can't step into anything and halfway it and expect to get far at all. Like, you're just on.
Which big box is kind of like the best one to work with? Makes it most organized.
Yeah, so you need to identify like your channel distribution where you truly want to be, because if your product's in Walmart, Target's gonna be like, meh. But if you start with Target or like Sephora wants exclusivity. You can't be anywhere else if you want to be in Sephora, unless like, you know, you are the Chanel. Then you obviously can have your Chanel stores. But, you know, going to Sephora and your product's in Ulta, they're like, meh. So start at the highest tier that you want to be and then work your way down. That's my recommendation.
Do you ever do any consulting, or do you know of agencies that like help hold your hand through? Not do it for you, but just like mentor, guide?
Yeah,
'Cause
I
it
can
is rough.
definitely, unfortunately, like we're at capacity, but I could definitely, any questions you have, we'll play some pickleball and I'll answer some questions over pickleball. She's so good at pickleball. But yes, and I can probably refer you to some really great people that could help. Yeah.
Can you speak to like Home Depot and Lowe's? Are those going to be the mass or?
Yeah, so they would definitely fall under mass. I didn't bring it here, but I'm working with a kids tool line called Handy Fam. And we're actually working on a pitch right now with Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Bass Pro Shops, in that category. So I would consider that mass. So we're meeting with them now, but it's for placement in spring 2026. Yeah, that's how far out they're buying. Tractor Supply can move quicker. Blaine's Farm and Fleet, like Rural King, your Ace, your Do It Best, your True Values, they can move a lot quicker. Mid-tier, yep. You need to be up here.
I wanted to follow up on what you said about going into, say, Sephora versus Ulta or whatever. Would you recommend, if you're starting with the independent retailers and then you have a success story and you have an opportunity to go into a broader market, brick and mortar location, would you pull from everything so that you could go into like your ideal location?
Yeah. You don't have to. You can keep that lower tier distribution. It's just when you're in mass that they get a little bit, and it's mainly just Walmart and Target and Ulta and Sephora. You know what I mean? Those are like the ones you kind of just need to pick where you want to live. And eventually, like if you're in Target, then you can move into Walmart, but keep all the distribution. Poppy, she started at farmers markets, and a Whole Foods buyer walked by her booth. Her and her husband every Saturday or whenever it was would set up their little booth and sell their little glass cans that she filled at her kitchen sink, literally, at a farmer's market. And a Whole Foods buyer just so happened to live in that city and walked by her booth and said, "You guys need to be in Whole Foods. Like, here's my card." And that's how they got there. And it's so funny. I love her story. It gives me chills. She was making a very strong 6, probably almost 7-figure income in the oil and gas industry, and her husband was doing very well. And she looked right at him at that moment, and she goes, "We're quitting our jobs." And he literally, she was like, he gave me this look that was like, "I love you, and you're crazy." And he's like, "The sad part is, like, I know you're not joking." Like, and then she literally, like, did about 6 months later, yeah.
So when you do get into Target and stuff like that, because I don't know, so do they actually buy, and then if they don't sell it, they like charge you back for it? Is that how? Okay.
So every retailer is different. Reviewing contracts is very, very important in this industry. Probably very important in general, but especially in this industry, because you can negotiate those sort of things. So if it's seasonal, typically they will expect you to take the product back. Sometimes they'll support you with markdowns at the end of a season, meaning they'll mark it down 30%, you have to pay 15 of that, they cover the other 15, and sometimes it's some of the retailers like CVS, Walgreens, their baby set is 2 years. So once they only reset that category every 2 years. So once you're in, you're kind of in. And if they know when you do your review with them that you're not going to make it into the next set, maybe sales were bad, they stop replenishment to kind of like move down on the inventory. But when you sell independents, when you sell it, when they buy it, and you can kind of wipe your hands clean from that. Yeah.
So you talked about the white space being the best place to sell because you have basically a new product on the thing. But with the long cycles of a year, 2 years, how do you mitigate competition from entering the space and making a crowded shelf while you try and get into big box retailers?
Yeah. You focus on your brand and you focus on your community. And that's it. You just literally stay in your lane. I love it. Like racehorses, you know how they have those little blinders on, and they're literally there for a reason. So I just say, as long as you stay in your lane and you own that, and you listen to your customers, you love your customers, you build a community around your customers, you're going to build a cult-like following. But it's when it's like, and I watch it happen all the time, what's so-and-so doing? What's so-and-so doing? Like, who cares? Like, what are you doing and how are you making it better every single day?
You must have a good feel at this point for white space.
I hope so.
Would you speak to that a little bit more than you already have about what it looks like to define that, to feel it out, factors that you take into account when you're looking at that?
Yeah, so a great example, and I have so many of them, so I don't know why I didn't bring them, but that kids tool line, Handy Fam that I'm working with, it's kids tools. It's functional kids tools. Well, when we're pitching Lowe's and Home Depot, you know, they're these, I'm from Texas, so I love, you know, these good old boys. But they're looking at this, they're like, where is this supposed to live? Like, there's no space for this. And I'm like, exactly. Like, it's incremental to your category. It doesn't exist. If you don't have space in their set, they call it like a POG. Like when you walk in, you see stuff like hanging all the rows in like Home Depot. I'm like, put a floor display. I'll even click back just so you guys can see. I'm like, put a little display, plop it on your floor. It's not going to take up any space in your POG. Yeah, there's Handy Fam. So it's all these cute little kid tools. And, but that's a white space in kids' tools. Like, you don't go to Home Depot and expect to like buy kids' tools, but how many dads are in there shopping and are like, oh my gosh, my son and I could build this together. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they are animal themed.
Is that like a bird tape measure?
Yeah, and it has a worm for the thing. Yeah, the dog has a little. I know.
I'll be like, yes, it's for a child. My inner child.
That was one that I found on LinkedIn. They had no wholesale distribution, but like, you know, when you see it, and I'm like, this is going to be big. So, yeah, they're really cool.
One more question here. Anybody from this side of the room? Yeah, I know. There you go. It's always normally one side.
Just with brick and mortar, once you get on the shop, will you still pursue e-commerce like Amazon at the same time, and also with marketing?
Yes. Consistency breeds continuity, and continuity breeds trust. Consumers buy products that they trust. In order for them to trust it, you want to show up everywhere. You want to show up on every social media platform. You want to show up in every store. You want to show up in magazines. You want to show up as many places as possible because you're building brand impressions with every glance.
And every clock
It's
step.
like Mortal Kombat meets
I know.
There has been improvement.
That would make sense. We should tell them to go practice in the further area over there. So, but it is funny, yes, to hear their progression of like, oh, they're getting more on beat. Good job, guys. Anyways, enough about upstairs. But wow, thank you, Michelle. You are such a worth of just knowledge and wisdom on this. So truly, thank you for spending. Oh yeah, I say we'll clap. There we go. I say thank you so much for spending your evening here with us and just, kind of pulling back the curtain on your side and what you do and giving us so much insight in that. So, truly thank you. Thank you, thank you. And thank you. I did tell her, I was like, dang, our other speakers are going to have to, step up because, this is, a whole setup. I'm like, now if people don't show up with the table, I'm like, what are you even doing? Come on. You have a quick question? Yeah.
So first off, you said consistency, so pricing difference. If you have something on Amazon versus in the store, how do you kind of go about that pricing difference? And then also, I guess, a brand like Poppy, which to me is a very trusted brand, and then they sell to Pepsi. Now all of a sudden I'm like, I actually don't trust Pepsi.
Totally,
So
yeah.
when do you make those kind of decisions too, I guess, versus you're having income and you just stay to grow your company?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've watched a lot of exits with the consumers will have to make their own decision on what they're going to consume. But what was your first question?
Pricing difference from Amazon
Yes.
versus retail.
So that's actually really important. You will lose your Amazon buy box if you get a product on Amazon if other retailers are marking down your product. There's systems literally in place. They just turn it on and it scans your product all across the internet. And if the product's pricing is not consistent, you can lose your buy box on Amazon. So a lot of companies have what's called a MAP policy, a manufacturer approved pricing policy. Most mass retailers will not follow it, but when you do the setup paperwork, you can say that is a requirement. Yeah. That's a really good question because some companies literally have departments that all they do is send letters to companies that are underselling, and then they go on a list and then they don't get sold to anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It's the second you think, you're like, I think I have life figured out, and then you hear all these things, you're like, I didn't even know this department existed. What on earth?
Well, 10 years ago when I got started in this industry, and I'm like, Dad, there's manufacturers, there's all, and then this whole process, he was like, what did you think happened when you go to a gas station and they're out of Frito-Lays? Do you think he's like, hey, Billy, make me another pack of Frito-Lays? And I was like, well, yeah, I'd actually never even thought about how products got from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, honestly, now you know the whole thing. So there we go. Well, again, thank you so much, Michelle. I so appreciate it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.